Republics, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
This meeting to order. We need approval of the agenda for March 4th. Is there any additions? Or corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of February 26th, 2024 minutes.
Right here, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, first item on the agenda is the Carroll County Growth Partnership presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we just stay here or is there somewhere?
You can sit up here if you'd like, it just, whatever you preference.
Just a bit of well, I've been here before, but I don't always introduce myself.
Okay, let's do introductions real quick. Courtney, do you want to go?
When I know who all you are,
Okay.
I'll just introduce myself. If you'd like me to. To table. Yeah, so I am Katie Mason. I work for the city of Coon Rapids, both as their community coordinator and the Main Street Executive Director. I've been on the CCGP board since December of 2018. And just recently I joined the executive board. The executive board, maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, created a position on the exec board just for a rural representative to make sure that they are getting full coverage of the county. Doug Meyer with Manning had that, and she stepped down from that position in November, and I stepped into that role in December. So that's kind of my background with the CCGP, and then my role with the city of Coon Rapids.
Good, that was really great with the iPad.
So I would just like to take a few minutes this morning to address some of the concerns that you have with the Carroll County Growth Partnership, really just to open up the communication lines. There were three main issues that I felt like I noticed when I watched the supervisors meeting on the 20th. Is the partnership moving the needle? Is the partnership working for the whole county? And is the partnership being transparent? And so I thought I would address each of those issues this morning and kind of give you my opinion on that, and then let you ask me any questions that you have. First, is the partnership moving the needle? And I would say yes. I sent you all an email on Thursday. I tried to do my best to quickly note all of the accomplishments that the partnership has had in the last year. And so I'm not going to go over those again with you this morning because hopefully you've had time to review those. What I didn't mention in there was that the CCGP makes the county, there are things that are hard to quantify, like reputation, connections, strengthening existing businesses. The partnership brings several influential people to our county every year. You know, for instance, Dean Stanley was here, the dean of ISU's business department. Debbie Durham with Iowa Economic Development and IFA has been here frequently. Joni Ernst is actually coming in a couple of weeks. And then as far as our reputation outside of the county, I met with Bruce Hansen. He is the vice president of business development with the Iowa Area Development Group. So I figured as someone in charge of the state's Iowa Area Development Group, I would ask him his opinion of our development group and our partnership, and whether he felt that we were doing the appropriate things, if we were moving the needle. And he said, absolutely. He said things like, we have a strong development group or partnership. We are envied by other counties, and we are successful, and that our reputation is very strong outside of the county. I also feel like economic development is a lot about taking care of the businesses that we already have. We have a lot of baby boomers who are going to be retiring, and helping them with business succession is going to be a very important part of what the partnership does over the next few years, and anyone in development. So sometimes bringing new businesses is not as important as working with the ones that you already have to strengthen them. I think Hub 712 is going to play a crucial role in helping our existing businesses and ensuring that we have them going forward and they don't just close their doors. So if you don't know how economic development works, I would say CCGP is doing it right. They are making progress, and to say that we haven't made any progress is kind of a slap in the face to those businesses who took the data and the information provided by the partnership and expanded their businesses or chose to find a buyer and not just close their doors. I really do feel like we are doing what needs to be done. Is the partnership working for the whole county? Yes, and I would say that I have definitely felt a shift in that priority since Kimberly was made the director. So in the last 3 years, not only Kimberly, but the whole board has definitely made it a priority to look at the county as a whole. I think they always have. I've just noticed a much greater shift in that in the last 3 years. In fact, on the board, there are 3 Glidden representatives, 2 from Manning, 2 from Templeton, and then I represent Coon Rapids. Western Iowa Network's broadband expansion was due to a grant written by CCGP. So that definitely was a county-wide huge success to get broadband to the rural communities. Last year, we created startup grants and mini facade grants. And in the rules for those grants, we specifically say that a certain number of them have to go to a non-City of Carroll business because we want to make a deliberate effort to assist people outside of the City of Carroll. If you'd like, I can rehash the ways that we in Coon Rapids have taken advantage of being part of the partnership. We're not taking advantage of the resources that we're able to get from them. It was in my letter. There are certain things that I do not have the capacity to do, like labor shed data. And that information that I'm able to get through the partnership helps me then do my job in recruiting housing developers, new businesses. Our school business department is using that to help work their curriculum around what our current workforce needs. Hub 712 is going to be a huge benefit. I frequently send new people who want to start a business to the CCGP to help them write business plans because I want them to start a business with a plan and not, and if you go to a bank for a new loan, you need a plan. So I've been sending them to the CCGP. Hub 712 will take over that role. Countywide recognition. The partnership has done a good job of helping promote the accomplishments that we've made and spread knowledge about Coon Rapids. And that's something I can't do on my own, that the partnership has helped with. And I will say county-wise, Jean and Scott have been great at visiting Coon Rapids. Stephanie has been in Coon Rapids. Mike and Cindy, if you would like to come to Coon Rapids and learn more about what we do and what we have going on, I'd love for you to come. I'll give you a tour and an update on the projects that we work on. And then I can even kind of explain how I work with the CCGP to make projects happen. I'd love to welcome you there. And then finally, is the partnership being transparent? Financially, I absolutely think so. I looked at the funding request information that she gave you guys when she made the request, and I see that she had a budget for this coming year. And she also had the last audited budget. And in the last 2 pages, I was looking through and it puts numbers to line items. And I think that that was a very, I don't know how much more in depth you need to get than specific line items, salaries, office rent, Access Washington. I mean, I felt like that was a fairly transparent transaction or a recording of their transaction. Jean and Scott also sit on that board. And so every month the board is given the check detail. So we see every check that is written by the partnership. And so I don't know how much more transparent, you all sit on different appointments. Because you can't all be in every organization. And so I guess I would hope that you would trust your colleagues that when they see the check detail and they are confident that it's transparent and money is being spent in the right way, that you would agree with them or else have conversations with them individually as to any concerns. Outside of the finances, I do think it's fair to say that we could come to you more often and give updates quarterly. I also think that it should be members of the board and not just the partnership staff, because while the staff do a lot of work, the whole board is responsible for making setting the strategies, and we do a lot as well to help the county and in conjunction with the staff. So I actually was the one who I volunteered to be here today. No one asked me to be here. I felt like as a executive board member, you need to hear from someone other than Kimberly. She did want to be here today, but she had a prior obligation. And I said, I don't feel that you need to be here because you guys need to hear from other people. I try to come to you once a year as a Coon Rapids representative just to give you an update. I feel like the same could be said for the partnership. So going forward, I think that will help, that we can have these conversations. I did look through what she gave you for 2024 with the funding request, and I thought she did a good job of explaining everything that we do. I know Cindy, you asked for two SMART goals, and she did put together 5. She and Matt put 5 together and sent those to you at the beginning of the month. So I feel like she was being responsive and trying to address what you were wanting. Otherwise, my only last comment is just I make one request, that you consider your public comments very carefully. Negative comments spread faster than positive and do damage to the county's reputation, not just the entity you're speaking about. I monitor what I say very carefully when I'm in the community, because that just spreads faster and hurts us on the larger scale. But with that being said, I would welcome any questions you have for me.
Thank you very much for coming. I think I can speak on behalf of this board that we all, as supervisors, do believe in economic development. And I do think you guys have done a lot. I do. My one comment that I had made, there was a public meeting it's been probably over a month now, that some comments were made that were very eye-opening to me, which is another governing entity. And so I looked into it, I'm like, this isn't okay. And it was specifically the rural not receiving the same amount of services as maybe a incorporated area or proper town. And that concerned me. So that was one of my comments. And I'm gonna stick behind what I said, just so that you can hear from, like, you've shared your opinions, and I appreciate that very much. I don't think I've ever shown any disrespect towards you, Katie. I think you do a phenomenal job. I wish every county in the state of Iowa had somebody like you, because I think you'd see economic development just blow up. What you've done in Coon is amazing.
Thank you.
And I do understand that partnership through Carroll and all of our little surrounding towns all have to work together to be prosperous, because we want Carroll County to prosper. So I appreciate that. One thing I will say, we do want to see more of an update, but I absolutely love your idea of bringing different board members. I respect Kimberly. I think she does a good job, but if you could bring, like you just did for Coon Rapids, if we could have somebody come from Manning, because then we're hearing what's happening outside in the rural community. Not that we don't care about Carroll, because we definitely do, but hearing what's happening in the rural areas as well. So that's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you for bringing that. I look forward to that. So that's my only thing. Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah.
And if anybody else has any questions, if you have any questions about maybe why I maybe said some of the things, not negative, more just concerning, because I think maybe, and I can speak to you after, maybe that just needs to be addressed, that you guys are receiving services. Because I did have some people come up to me and ask me, which was fine. And I said, I want to hear your side. I want to give you my side. And then after having that open communication and understanding what's all going on, it helped me feel better about spending some of that, money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I do feel that that more reports like this are easy to do. I mean, it's just an easy conversation saying, in Coon Rapids, this is what we did, and this is how the partnership has helped, or having someone from, Brooke and Glidden, Dawn and Manning, and reaching out to the other counties. And we have talked about how do we reach out to some of the county or some of the communities in the county who aren't involved in the partnership, and trying to bring them in, get them involved.
I think messaging to the public is very important, and I do like the idea of different spokespeople. Most of the phone calls and emails I received, when I clarified that this year was gonna come out of local option sales tax, that quieted them down. They say, I support it, but I still don't know if I wanna be taxed on it. Local option sales tax and economic development go hand in hand.
Yep.
I think that's a big first move that we made. That's going to, that's only my second year on the board, but before I got on, CCGP was a big topic. Obviously, we're a voice of the people, and we did level funding last year. We're doing level funding again this year. As of now, we have not. That's what our vote was. But I think we need clarity, and so does the county. Otherwise, the issue keeps coming up, and people keep bringing it up. So there is concerns out there. And that's where we need CCGP to clarify that. You know.
Yeah. And I want to say, obviously sense your frustration in your email. Nobody here, we're all for economic development. Okay, and I do appreciate you coming here today because we don't get a lot of communication from, my perspective. I've only been here a year. I feel like there is a little bit of a disconnect between half of the community and, maybe like a divide. And what I would encourage you to do, if I were in your shoes, is to really reach out and to talk to Greg Knowles. He's, and read some of those articles and try to understand another perspective. And I'm not saying I agree with everything Greg Knowles puts in the document because I don't, but he's got some valid points in some of those articles, and you have that paper going every Monday to 5,000 or 6,000 houses. We need to find a way to connect with him and, say, what can we do to all get this community on the same page? Not, had the taxpayers feeling like they're not being represented, their money is not being used wisely, and you all coming in with this report and say, but look what we did. So I would just encourage you to reach out to him and try to understand where he's coming from and see if we can get him on board. Because I see that as, I think that's important. And I do think he has some good ideas. And when you're talking about having a footprint like he has in every house, that's significance. And, people just want to be heard. And I've had people reach out to me with the concerns, and maybe my tone was harsh, and I apologize for that. But we do need to address the opposition. You always have to look at, okay, we have all these people saying, this is great, but you have to address the people that are concerned as well. So thank you. I really do appreciate
Well,
you
hopefully
coming.
this helps address some of those concerns.
Thank
you.
Okay, I want to thank you for your time here today. You've done an excellent job. And you know where I feel, where I stand. And I do agree that there's been a divide between different parcels of the county. And I think that since I've been, for the last many years, CCGP has made an effort to try to get that together, that we're working as one. And I think it's gotten closer than what it ever has. I think there is probably some people out there got some personal vendettas that are still putting stabs in us, and we got to get over them and have the majority rule that I think thinks that CCGP is doing an excellent thing. We can't let a few interrupt the whole thing.
And it is hard to bring new businesses and lots of new businesses to our rural communities. We're small, and that is a burden on itself to bring a lot of new businesses constantly to the rural communities. So there are other things we have to do to improve quality of life to bring them here. And as rural communities, we need to reach out to the partnership and say, here's what we're doing and here's where we need your help. And so, that's got to go both ways. And so that's a big reason that I choose to work hard on the partnership, so that I can make sure that Coon Rapids is involved, because no one can help us if we don't step up to the table too.
I'm just curious. There was kind of a big announcement on Friday with a business closing. REG.
Idling.
Huh?
He said idling.
I don't. Are you guys gonna have some conversations probably with the unit?
Sure, they brought it wrong.
Okay.
No.
I know the employee, I think is roughly around 24, anywhere from 24 to 32.
Okay.
But I don't know if you were made aware.
Yeah, we've got the, one of the gentlemen who run for Landis, I mean, the same site, he's actually on the CCTV. So I'm sure he will provide us an update.
I'm sure something for a purchase or something will happen, but helping supporting those 26 to 28 people that don't have that are out of the job, obviously, we've got plenty of jobs open that they can apply for, but I just didn't know if that'd be a conversation because we haven't, that's good to know.
I think the sad part of that's probably some very well paid jobs too.
And I will just say, I'm the vice president of CCGP at this time. I've served on their board since probably back in 2011 or so, when I was serving on city council. And I got to do numerous trips to Washington DC with CCGP, and that is a collective voice that goes out and speaks to our federal legislators about issues for the whole county. And I can say that as a board member, we were actively involved in discussions with Iowa corn processors when they expanded their plan and helped with that process. And we also helped with getting some of the data and coordination with Region 12 when we were able to run the new paved road to the REG plains. And we worked with, as she said, Western Iowa Networks on grants related to rural broadband. We had our CCGP group not been in Washington DC since, spoken as a collective community for the region to Grassley's office. St. Anthony Hospital would not have been approved for a demonstration program that brings them about $150,000. So that's a big thing for regional healthcare. We also were able to take issue to the EPA that slowed down some regulatory things for Iowa Hooters, now Lear, who's now gone on and continued to expand their workforce. But you know, we were that collective voice. Sometimes a lobby is going to walk in and speak to those folks, and they're really just looked at as a lobby. And sometimes the legislators aren't really going to take it as seriously. But when people that are just from the community who have no attachment to the business are in their office talking about how important the workforce is, it does seem to resonate. So we've done quite a few different things. We, as board members, also spoke with the Arcadia City Council and talked to them about the TIF project that they did with FAC on their last expansion of the milling operation over there, helping their council understand, you know, the benefit of tipping that area when maybe sometimes people don't feel like they should be giving an existing business anything, or maybe they think in their minds it's a foregone conclusion. But you know, in the big picture, it benefits the community, it strengthens the community, and sometimes those conversations are better coming from lay people as opposed to somebody who's just you know, maybe a hired gun. We've also been one of the things that we got to do was work with the gas expansion from Manning to Arcadia to help them expand the mill and expand Manning's gas and create some redundancy. And so we were there at the table with Manning's gas consultant, with multiple meetings with legislators as well as EPA. So you know, there's some things that as a board we're able to do collectively for the county and all of the communities. You know, the housing study that we did was countywide. You know, we made sure that, you know, we addressed every community in the county when we did that study. So we really are working hard to think about the thriving communities that we have throughout the whole county and working as collectively as we possibly can. And to Katie's point, you know, Dawn did a wonderful job and continues to do great work for Manning. And now we've got Katie, who's really been the top of her game in Coon Rapids. So we're listening. And as a board, we really do try our best. And economic development has its ebbs and flows, and so does the leadership of the group. And I can tell you that, you know, over the last 10 years, I'm as excited as I've ever been about being part of that board, seeing what Kimberly's been able to bring with her connections to IEDA and SBDC and Iowa State Extension. I think those things are going to pay dividends in the future. So I just hope everybody can, you know, really be excited about it and celebrate it. And hopefully we can really get this thing moving in the right direction for all business development.
Go ahead.
So That's awesome. And, but what I want to let you know is in the last 5 minutes, I learned more about CCGP and what you've done than I've learned in the last 2 years. So that's what we need to bring, brought to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, we need clarity like that. It's simple.
And
And we
think-
asked for that last year. That's where our frustration lies.
And I think
all we
to
want.
Cindy's point too, those things all were splashed in the paper when they happened. But those were snapshots in time over the last 10 years that I just covered for you. And if you have a newspaper or a public opinion right now, that every single week is not convinced of anything that I just said. That does make it harder to turn that tide, and so I hope maybe through this, even just this public outreach that Katie arranged, it might help to kind of get them to looking backwards and saying, hey, maybe there's a few things to this, maybe they are working with us.
I know
And
we-
having even Jim Gossett was a former director, and he's over at Raccoon Valley, and he's doing projects all over the place for Raccoon Valley now, but working in tandem with Kimberly on a number of those agricultural electrical expansions and some of their stuff, so.
And
think
I know
that's
we
good.
said quarterly, I personally think every other month and would be nice. And it wouldn't have to be you, it could be different people, because you have several people, right? I mean, just to come in and share what they're going through. And then also, I think if we could tie in an update to the Highway 30 project, expansion project, because that did go through the House, that passed through the House, and obviously that would impact us, and I'm hearing rumblings that there might be a bypass around Carroll. Now, so that's what I'm hearing, but if we had updates, every other month or so that we know how to respond, economic development around that, because obviously that would be something that we need to think about. So, I think it's a relationship. I think the relationship, because this board plays a big part in economic development and we want to help, but we all need to be on the same page. And I would love to see us kind of pull Greg in, and I'm not trying to focus on one person. He has a big footprint and it's affecting the way people think. So
Absolutely.
I
Try to
really
fix that
encourage,
side
I
too.
really encourage you both, or, others to really, I would love to open that paper one day and see him saying something nice. And then the community, I think you'll see a real turn in the community when everybody is on the same page. That's what I see. And, I've only lived here for not even 2 years. So I'm kind of looking at it without a lot of opinions. I mean, that I think we need to be more cohesive. Now,
I will just forewarn you about every other month. Economic development is a little slow. When I work on a grant, it can take me 6 months to a year to put a grant together. So sometimes it may feel like, I'm not saying we shouldn't come. I'm just saying sometimes it might feel like I don't want, for instance, when I give a report to the full board, I don't say, hey, I'm still working on that grant. I'm still working on that grant.
it
So
doesn't
you
have to
might,
come from you,
no,
come
I'm saying the
from
board,
someone
it's just
Yeah.
the CCGP as a whole,
else.
the partnership. Some of the reports you get, it may feel like, oh, that was the same update you gave a month ago.
And that's,
Just because it takes, like Hub 712,
Yeah.
that was a full, probably 18 months in the planning
Mhm.
before they were able to really get it off the ground. So,
And maybe the update takes 5 minutes.
mhm.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, this is just my opinion, because I know everyone else said quarterly, so I just think the more communication, the better, and the less, chance for, falsehoods to kind of
Something's gotta
take in there.
change. Something's gotta.
So
go.
I would encourage every other month, but
Yeah,
that's just
no, I
me.
don't disagree
So,
that we can't come and give reports. I don't want you to get
I
false
understand.
expectations that every time we
Right.
come, we're gonna
We
have
s-
home
well,
runs.
We requested it last year and it happened for 2 months and then never seen it again. So that's where it's.
And I think the other thing is too, there's things with confidentiality that you're not gonna hear until after. the
Mhm.
fact Because of various reasons. And I mean, that's a big thing.
It is, but
Yeah,
that's simple. I'm working on a project with a new company coming to town. You don't have to say a single thing.
Right.
I know, but how stuff gets out, but they don't like leak too much.
well,
And we'll
But I
be
think
able to
we-
provide you some updates too on the business retention and expansion
Oh.
visits that we do. We do a number of those throughout the year. Actually, board members oftentimes help with those.
I was gonna ask, do you know? So out by Walmart, do you know what the like daily traffic counts are? Did we get information like that out of the what was it called, the retail couch?
Yeah.
Did we get information like that?
Yes, yep. So we have, they actually have the geofencing that shows where all the cell phones are. So they can tell you that the person who comes to town, maybe when they stop at Walmart, but then they turn around and they go to Baumgart's, or maybe they end up in our downtown at a restaurant, or what have you, and the number of stops they make before they leave, it's kind of scary, the information that you can get.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean.
I would love to
know-
hear
I
some
know
of that.
Retail coach kind of got thrown under the bus a little
The
bit.
county trucks.
But I will say that it was beneficial from that perspective, and it did open the door to having some pretty solid data. So when we have a discussion with somebody going forward, we can provide some of those numbers, because our county is bigger than 21,000 people, you know, we're pulling our 64% of our workforce drives into the county every day, so, you know, we're upwards of 40,000 people at any given time. Carroll proper is probably 20-some thousand people. And so that makes us larger and more attractive to certain businesses. And that was one of the benefits that we did get from that program. It was just unfortunate timing. You know, they signed the agreement with that, and then we had COVID. And then everything went down. Traffic counts went down, numbers went down, people, closures of businesses with, you know, startups of businesses nationwide went down. So and it was a 3-year agreement, and, you know, everybody can attest, you know, between the end of 21 and even into start of 2022. It was a slow roll, and by the time we came out of it, you know, the contract was ending, so.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I know you guys have busy agendas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is budgets. One for Tom Wilson. James.
You got Tom Cousins?
Yes,
And I'm not gonna look outside.
I think it's Shaner
Those were the two correct.
or Our Lady of the Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the only two.
Schoner,
Gene, how do you pronounce that?
Jim Schoner,
Yeah.
I can't say it's relation.
relation.
No, it's not.
You get a vote on this? No. You gotta make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve plans.
I'll second.
For the motion and a second, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Yeah,
carried.
into the bus day.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss 28E agreement for environmental health services between Carroll and Crawford. And I'm gonna kind of leave this up to Cindy and Mike, because they were the ones that had the conversations. I did see your guys' email, and did everybody have a moment that came up this morning?
So,
Just brief
Oh.
email if you would.
so Carrie did, enlighten me to one thing that was a little different than the email that I had sent out. So we agreed to change from, 24 to 40 for this year. But, I believe we were going to have Mr. Warden look at the actual agreement for the verbiage and maybe try to leave the amount out. But for this year, that's what we agreed, and I think that, Dave wanted to put 40 so that you could budget for it. So that would be easier that way. We wanted to change the wording periodically to annually, so we're looking at it every year. And then we maybe clarify under there, it says, I think that we're providing. What did it say? Environmental. Preparedness, but emergency, I'm sorry, and, they said, well, they pay someone for that, so maybe just clarify that it's, just a partnership, like,
We don't, yeah, it's a partnership.
But it
We're not-
looks-
We're not providing
Yeah.
anything to sit as a member on their local coalition.
and then, yeah.
In
so-
case we need to get involved with their. Something that may happen over there.
So
Oh.
we gotta start paying in arrears after this year, then after the 40,000,
Well,
or was that discussed?
go ahead. It's
Well,
part of
so
this-
we were gonna change, so Carrie felt comfortable that she would have her numbers by October.
Mhm.
So we would understand where we were at. And then, we also all agreed that, the cost for some of these permits needs to be raised to cover some of the, um, you know,
So Dave's idea is if you charge 40 and, you know, your well permits, septic permits, perk tests and contractor license all go up, it'll be close to 0 every
Yeah.
year. You know, if we get the fees up. So that was the,
because, I mean,
And so we can govern how much we charge to close it.
Just for septic permit, well permit, perk tests, and the septic contractor license, so. Those are the only things we can control.
the rest is state, right?
The closing is state that, okay.
Yes, so the reimbursements from Ramsey County is all state determined. The pool license inspection fees, that's state determined. Tattoo license inspection fees, that's state determined. So the septic and well is really the only thing we have any authority to modify.
and they were hoping to see the changes this budget cycle, so, because they were not done with theirs either. They had not approved their budget either. It was a good meeting. I thought everyone was in
Did
agreement.
you meet with David?
Jean,
Gene Hayden.
yes,
So if we raise the rates, does that come to Crawford County or Carroll County on the well permits, septic?
That comes to us.
That comes to, okay.
So with that increase and the 40, it should be close. That's why
Again,
annually you'd have to still meet every year because it's gonna be off, you know.
Well, there's always gonna be fluctuation in
Yes.
how many septics did we done, how many wells did we
Yes.
permit? I mean, that number is not the same every year.
Yeah,
But is this 40 gonna go into this year's budget right now or
No, it will
It'll be-
be for
26?
next fiscal year, because this year would be already
25,
budgeted.
FY
for.
25.
yes,
So the budget that I
That's July
presented to
1st.
you,
Good
That's what
budget.
we're working on.
Yes, this
Didn't have to
budget.
be changed
the
our
one we're
figures.
working on, yes,
so
that would be a question.
24, 25.
Yes,
24,
that was what we, this
Okay, so that'd be
Yes.
current.
Yeah,
what we're-
so the budget I was presenting to you before at 37,000 of an increase would be 40 instead of the 37.
So it went from 34 to 40, because we told them to go up 3 after your meeting.
Yes, well,
So it's
yeah.
really gonna go up six grand from where it was.
but more than what I presented.
Yeah,
When I
correct.
was here.
Yep.
Are there any other line items in your revenue that you would change because you're increasing your fees? Or would you leave those the
I
same
would-
just to see how it goes?
I would leave them the same.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the septic well is already under one line item,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And then the septic contractor license, I think that's in that same line item. I think they're all in the same line item.
Which is better that, it, I mean, it is revenue and expenses difference, so that works, but. Thank you, one, for having this conversation. I will agree, I'd like to see, I understand that Crawford needs to have that 40,000 so they can budget for it. But I still would like to see that almost open-ended somewhat, so that we can always make sure that both sides, whether we need to charge that or don't need to charge that, just to make sure that we're not taxing Carroll County taxpayers too.
That would need to probably go in the language of the 28.
Yeah.
And I don't know how,
and that's
Not
why this is
deterred.
gonna go change the word to annually, to meet annually.
Yeah.
You have to, there's no other way around this.
Yeah, it's gotta be done well.
It's got to be changed every year.
It's the same way as our contract with law enforcement.
Yes,
so is somebody going to write up a rough draft to send to the county attorney with some of those changes?
I think you just need to email this to John with the original 28,
Change.
change it,
I can do that.
just forward it to John.
Because when we're working on 2080s, our county attorney definitely needs to take a look at it.
Yes.
Make sure that we're running over basis. Well, thank you very much for having that conversation. Thank you, Carrie.
The other,
So you're gonna make those changes in the budget and.
Increases in.
Only 3,000.
I'll increase that.
But that would make no big difference on our end and.
sorry.
The 10th decimal point out would be about.
It's really hard to
And that-
increase it for one and then not increase it for the other, but that would be. You know, if you've got a strong opinion one way or the other, then let me know. Otherwise, we will just change across the board because we got contractors that work in both counties. And so I usually send them a permit with what the fees are. And if they have to try and keep track of a Carroll County permit versus Crawford County permit, because fees are different, it's gonna be a, it will be a cluster.
And the way that, you know, we made the changes, it could go, it might be us next year that owes, I mean,
Yeah, you never,
but this will close the gap.
and that's what we need.
Well, there'll be no decision today until it's reviewed by the county attorney, but thanks for your.
Yes, and I have to meet with the Board of Health also. They're the ones that approve the fee increases and the fee changes. They meet on the 19th in Carroll. They meet on the 25th in Crawford. And then I'll meet with Crawford County's board tomorrow about the same, basically the same discussion we're having right now, Crawford tomorrow.
So do you think it'd be advantageous for us to send that email to John Ward now, or wait until you guys get more of approval on permits?
We could send it to them now about changes. I don't know how quickly we'll get anything back.
Okay, yeah, we'll just go ahead and do that, so we'll start that ball rolling, and if he has questions too,
Yeah.
you might have time before, your meetings with.
Well, obviously tomorrow, the Crawford board will need to approve the discussion that we had about the 40,000 and the 2080 will come after that, but everybody needs to get their budget stuff figured out sooner.
Okay.
Than we need to necessarily have the 2080 completed, so we can bring that back to you when we have that done.
Perfect.
And to them as well.
For this year's budget, she'll have that in there ready. That's. Good.
Okay, all right, thank you. Great.
Thank you,
All right,
Carrie.
item
Thank
number
you,
4, fiscal year 25 Carroll County budget. We're gonna go ahead and start with consider for approval the conservation department request. Jason with the conservation, last week to explain. His request as far as whether it be higher or lower. So I'd like to have some of these for those important, and we can schedule our public hearing. Now, remember, we can set our levies. Cannot increase them from the moment that we set the public hearing, but we can decrease them. I'll make that clear.
Main topic in conservation was about another full-time employee. Is that what?
Jason, I just want to clarify. So if we were to go with the adjusted, it's actually a savings of over $3,000. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, because of the stuff the seasonal people were taking out.
Right.
Adjustments making. That is if you go with the 3.2% pay raises across the board. In my original budget presentation, I had a couple of adjustments that figured in. So that one takes those salary adjustments out and just does a 3.2% across the board for everybody. While still having every four seasonal positions.
So you had employees roughly 60 grand.
57.
Yeah, a little shy of 60.
My only concern, Jason, is, one, I completely understand your position on trying to hire somebody full-time to alleviate that hardship trying to get summer help. My only concern that I don't really like is the fact that we're gonna push off a purchase of a vehicle for a year to help alleviate any of the debt out of your budget, but we're only pushing it off for the future. That's my only concern. Going forward, because so this year we don't have that purchase, but we're going to have that next year, plus the full time. It's kind of catch-22 because
It is, but my equipment budget next year, you know, putting the vehicle will still be where it is this year, next year. It wouldn't.
So that 30,000 less will stay there.
Yes. And 31,000 less
For the seasonal help.
this is.
I can't, my God, in my opinion, I never want to micromanage any of our elected officials or department.
You have its own conservation board.
Question. Are these, what do they do like in the winter? Are they real overly busy?
We do a lot of our resource management type work in the winter, cutting trees and that kind of stuff.
Courtney and I had a discussion.
We could have thrown me in here.
I
Gee,
I
had a
had thrown on our
discussion.
bus this morning earlier, so you just will join me.
It was just, and it was not, it was just an idea.
We're trying to eliminate Zach going out to secondary roads to do their cleaning out there. In the past, they've done the snow removal. Is there a possibility that you guys got skid steer and dump truck, right? Could you serve a parking lot up there? Yeah.
I will say, it's just hang on to that conversation, I have reached out to outside company. To just see what it would cost to source an outside company, I don't think it's gonna be as cheap as what we all think in our head, because.
Oh, I-
actually
Oh, yeah,
large space.
yeah. Mhm.
And all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, what all is involved with it? It's the question of you, how you need to do not to.
There's some yellow lines that go east west.
Is it seriously hauling snow out?
Well, they, secondary roads, they do.
A lot of times they push in the corner. They push in the corner and then haul away later, is what they do, right? Yeah, right?
And somebody explained to me, and this is just because I don't understand that process. Why do we haul snow that's gonna move? And
Cause it takes up parking spots.
so can we just dedicate 2 parking spots for the 2 snowstorms? Let's be honest, we don't have snow like we used to. That would alleviate, because can you imagine?
It'll take a search storm, take that more.
One in each corner.
Well, and I think we tried to eliminate that because we had a whole parking lot closed and we were short on space. And it usually, it doesn't, it takes like 4 to 5 parking spots.
I never
for sure.
understood it, and I never understood what the city did it. Why are we moving snow that's gonna move?
Snow probably is a way bigger part of the equation than hauling away.
Okay.
Realistically.
Hauling away can be a rainy day project, so to speak. I think that's what Gene was getting at with his question of during the winter, it's more of a slow season. The other thing is when it melts, sometimes it refreezes, depends on where it drains to, if there's
Okay.
issues with that, I don't know, I'm sure Zach would prefer to have it out there from that reason too, but exactly what's put, I don't know, I mean, from the standpoint of whether it would refreeze on the parking lot or something like that, but it does leach off into the ground.
I just was curious, I never really understood that. I just
The other
noticed,
thing, it does kind of freeze in that.
well, so does moving at 8 o'clock in the morning,
I know,
and dropping
but-
my daughter off at school.
But it's moving.
The only other, the only concern I would have, one is one time was a meeting, it's like staff. Which. Now, because. Stuff doing something to get here, so if we gotta do. Like if this building rented or something, or you show up, we gotta get stuff open up here. You know, what time is courthouse, obviously by 8 o'clock, but. You know, what time, I don't know how long it takes to do the parking lot.
Depending how much, there's a lot of times you're just a paid order, not a skid order.
So we'd have to put up equipment, and bring it in. The other thing is we don't have anything to sand or salt with. Have that equipment, so. I don't know if we typically put sand or salt down on the parking lots, but we-
That answered that question.
Anything else? Yeah.
That answered that question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause that parking
That
lot,
doesn't work.
it needs to be salted or sanded.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For
We
the
don't want
safety
people falling
of-
down. Yeah, we don't want people falling down.
Okay, it was fun. Trying to work all in.
No, that's good. That's what this is for, is conversation.
Trying to make a win-win.
Hey, I just learned why we moved snow at once.
I have questioned that as well.
Well, board, decide whether we're gonna have this in there or not.
The conservation board approved it.
What-
Mike, you were at the meeting, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean. I never even realized all the things that they did for the community until we started coming out here. So, I mean. I would agree with this. I think it makes sense to have another person that's. Vested into the team. I do get it's adding another person, but. We are also removing 4. And this person will also, from a safety standpoint, you'll have one person who can be trained. In safety instead of 3 or 4 that are coming and going and. If we did remove it, or if you do remove it, I would just suggest maybe, a non-paid internship, just so we're still fostering growth. You know, that would just be my personal, but I don't have a problem with this, but I'm,
You know, I asked this before, Jason, that you're not gonna need an additional assigned vehicle to this person. No. Yeah, I'm listening, I don't like the idea of adding another person, but being full-time, then knowing the way everything operates versus you don't know what you're gonna get with seasonal summer help.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't like adding staff, if I didn't know, but because it's always an expense, it's gonna be there.
It's forever, it snowballs, yeah.
But I can see where you have a hard time hiring seasonal staff.
or
I'm still for his requested column.
All the way down to raises also,
Yeah,
or just the.
yeah, what the conservation board voted on, I'm for that. It's my own,
Courtney, can you clarify to me from the complaint that I received, do I need to make a request a motion for every item that we go through, or are we gonna do this preferably towards the?
Overall budget.
I think what was trying to get across was if you have something you're discussing and there's differing opinions and somebody's not in favor of something, that it is
Trying to
okay
get
to
an
do a
overall
vote
feel
because
for-
it's documented who was in favor of it.
No, he's
No,
not, he's saying.
I'm
Just
saying
taking
what
off the
conservation said, yep.
Yeah.
So would this constitute kind of, since we're live streaming, we could kind of just everybody say yay, nay, without a motion, like I'm for this, I'm for this, I'm for this, without.
We do one at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's-
Do the add a position first, then the director, then the park ranger.
oh,
Those were already, that was already discussed when we did the 3.2 across the board, correct?
That's not what Mike's saying.
Oh, okay, so you wanna,
you're going back to the original, or are you using this paper?
Let's go back to the add request.
I don't have that one. I have
This
his
is what
from
he
the
gave us.
conservation board. I don't have that one. I'll make it.
One's the add a position minus the seasonal help. The other one is deviating from the.
So you got a
3.2.
requested column or preliminary. I'm going with the requested is what I want.
To answer your question, it technically doesn't need to be a motion because you're gonna approve the budget overall, but I think that individual just said it'd be nice to see how people voted on.
Okay.
Especially.
I just wanna make sure, cause like, yeah, I'm all for criticism, I have no problem with that, I just wanna make sure that I kind of address some of those issues that I'm doing things the right way,
Yeah.
that maybe I didn't hear it right or something like that, so I just needed to make a thank you.
I could go along with the requested column, with the increase of staff and just the 3.2 for everybody else. I mean, I think
I want to do it separate.
Jason, I'm gonna be the first one that I don't like the idea because of what you did in the past, because I want to support you, but. This, sorry to say this deal
I
is,
told the board at my original budget meeting, my goal was to get in. If, you know, if the salary increases above and beyond the 3.2% can't happen, but we can still work out getting an additional employee, that would be my priority. So you know how I think on that, Gene, so that is my priority.
and you've been,
Because really, ultimately, when you look at the numbers, like I said, if you want to still throw the park ranger extra increase in there, I would be fine with that. That's not a huge number. If you want to leave mine out for this year, that's fine. Like I said, I just look at the budget numbers every year, the salary numbers every year. comparing.
and what I'm saying is, Jason, we've done that with everybody else. We've taken out any extra, we just been made 3.2. And I would go along with the additional staff. At this point.
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Me too.
You need to have a vote for it.
That's
So,
fine, we can make a motion
like-
for this.
I guess I can make a motion, or
There doesn't.
Okay.
So there doesn't need to be a motion
Let me see
because. We can if we want, you guys can all say, I'm for it, I'm for it, I'm for it, I'm for it, and let it be.
I just want to make sure we're all for the same things, because there's,
You're never, well, the odds of that happening with 5 people, with 5 different individuals.
no, I mean that we're, talking about the same
Okay.
things.
And then also, I don't know if you two are aware of it. 'Cause
On this
it's on the board yet. But years past, Jason has always taken a zero for himself and put the salary increase or anything that he could do for his staff. Although
Not always once,
but typically you don't really ask for much, and I appreciate that, but at some point you do need to go to bat for yourself, because you are a good director.
Well,
And he is,
But I understand what you're doing this.
like I said, I'm not,
Yeah.
competitive.
I'm not looking at this. When I do that, I put the budget together, obviously, so it looks like I'm doing it for myself, but I'm really doing it for the position. Because someday, like I said, I'm not gonna be here, my board's gonna have to hire a new director.
Yeah.
And that position needs to be competitive where they're at. Like I said, there's at least three open director positions statewide right now. And they can't get qualified applicants in line. And I really honestly think it's because what they're offering for starting pay.
And I appreciate it.
It's tough, I get it, and I know you guys have a tough budget here. I appreciate that. So honestly, I appreciate you even considering all this, because I know it's a tough budget. I tried to work the numbers into my budget to make it work the best I can without a whole lot of impact on the overall budget. I don't have any of these number popular opinion or popular thing.
But I mean, there's some benefits to having a full-time person versus three full-time.
Right.
I mean, safety instruction, you gotta go through that process every time.
And it's have a vested interest in what
Yes.
they're doing. Nothing against seasonal people, they come in at the beginning of May. You train them real quick, they're thrown right into the fire, because May is a busy time for us. So you're expecting them to get all this stuff done, and done properly. And, you know, if you got a full-time person that is being expected to do that stuff along with the rest of our staff that are trained and they know what's going on day to day. They can, you know, that training period isn't really there on an annual basis. It will be for the first year, but with a full-time person, you get them trained and they should know, you know, what the expectations are. Moving forward.
But that's the reason I asked the question, trying to make it win-win, kind of make it soften
Yeah.
the burden a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not gonna work that way, so I will make a motion, then we go ahead with the requested column of what's it, 3.2% across the board staff salary, and also the addition of another employee, and then remove the seasonal staff, and then remove the truck from the equipment of 30,000.
And then what about the additional pay?
So he said.
He
no.
said
I said no, just 3.2.
You said that no. Okay, just that. I would second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
But it's,
No. Nay. Aye. Motion carries. Okay,
Now, can I ask one thing while I'm here quick? Since I have budgeted in our current fiscal year to hire seasonal people for May and June, can I use that money to hire that person, that new employee, before I start April 1st? So I can.
Before the fiscal year.
Will that work? Courtney?
Yeah, that's fine.
I got plenty of money.
If there's any insurance overages, it would just pull from the salaries. It's fine.
okay.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to hire a seasonal person in July.
No.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Jason.
appreciate all the discussion on this and you guys taking the time to have me talk and discuss this. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
thank you.
All right, one item number B, 4B, consider for approval of nonprofit funding. I know we went over this once, but let's run through this list again. Would you guys like to do every single one individual?
where we're at, what he's done.
That's 4B. Well, we scrutinized this list pretty well the last time.
I'm 100% comfortable with everything on it, and the, where the funding's coming from on the daycares and CCG.
Mhm.
But if anybody differs, we can go through.
Well, no, if everybody's, I'm doing, I'm fine.
I think you need to. As of last week's concerns, I think you need to go through each line item and do a yay or nay, I think.
Well, if everybody's in a consistent agreement on.
Or yeah, you can say the whole thing, or you need to make something about it.
And I'll just run through these real quick, just so that you guys are aware that some of these probably don't need to be talked about, like this first one. For the public health, 75,000, that is to stay consistent. New opportunities is 13,000. How about you stop me when we need to have a conversation?
Okay,
New opportunities, SA treatment, 7,085. New opportunities, 11,935. Region 12 transit funding is $12,040.80 and 1,250. Region 12 local housing trust fund, 10,000. Sorry, it's with me to follow this. Region 12 membership dues is 10,000, sorry, I'm gonna do that membership. Fees 19,722. The revolving loan fund for Region 12 is 25,000. Carroll County Growth Partnership has been moved to lost. Their requested was $84,872. And the last meeting we had agreed for a level funding from fiscal year 23 of 82,400.
Fiscal year
24. Okay. RSVP foster grandparents, 9,000 per 1,000. Elder Bridge, $17,798. Family Crisis Center, 5,400. Centers Against Abuse, which is also known as CASA, $1,000. Carroll County Fair, 13,500. Historical Society, 4,000. Community of Concern, $2,610. Rita Daycare will be moved to Lost and 5,400. Carroll Area Daycare,
Oh, fine now.
5,000. You gotta go down to lost on the bottom. And it has the new,
oh, okay. Boy, I'm so okay. Carroll Area Daycare, 2,000. Manning Daycare, 7,000.
so Breedy Daycare was 5,000, just to be clear,
Correct.
yep.
Thank you. Soil and Water, 4,500. And now we're to libraries. So we have the Carroll Library, 40,000. Lincoln, Glidden, and Manning will be receiving $14,716. Merchants Park, so you guys know that, what else is coming in our local option sales tax? Merchants Park fiscal year 23/24 is 25,000. We did allocate money for the Riverside Trail Project fiscal year 25, 75,000. And the Arcadia shared the road. Project, 15,000.
If they get their funding right on that.
If they get their grants, that's what we.
The same way with that, Riverside too.
And just to clarify, the Merchants Park, the first 25 will come out of fiscal year 25, and then those other will
26.
be 26.
And that again was also approved.
You know what I'm calling.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Do you think, oh no, you won't, you probably wouldn't be able to remove ones that we don't do anymore, do we?
I certainly can. This is just a list for reference.
So, is there anything, as I was going through that, you were supposed to stop me if you wanted to discuss? If not, are we good with going forward with that proposed?
You will note that a lot of that on the bottom there is also for economic development besides what we give to CCGP, you know, between the trail and the Merchants Park and all that, there's 115,000 there. Just want to make that public.
That's true.
Daycares are also part of economic development.
Development. So
Okay.
another, so it's another 125,000 roughly in there that is on top of what we fund for CCGP.
So that was unanimous without actually having to take. Unless you guys want to do it, on then.
Fine.
All right. Item number C, discuss proposed levy and local option sales. Tax. Pretty important. I personally want to take a moment and thank you. For pulling together these three different scenarios. We definitely appreciate all your hard work that you're putting into this budget this year.
You're welcome. I hope it made sense to everybody. And I tried to make it.
I think we can all.
Make it that
agree-
way.
I think we can all agree we can get rid of the no contribution from the rest.
Okay.
That one does not look good.
I didn't like that one either. Great. So
Without moving any.
in fiscal 24, our current year, we did budget $300,000 of lost dollars to offset the levy. So I did do 150 and 300 as kind of an example. 150 set your urban levy at 4.6983 and rural at 7.9531, which rural is definitely a little bit of an increase, along with commercial being an increase. The particular residential property we looked at would see a decrease of about $27. Personally, I liked the $300,000 one, just because if you look at the overall taxes, the tax, I hate that, tax asking. It's actually less than 24, and I know it's not a lot less, but it's $13,836 less than the taxes we asked for in the year we're in now, which I think if you can do a budget and ask for less money when everything's went up, and we did do raises, that's great. So the house, if you do the 300,000, you're at a 4.60948 on urban, 7.86428 on rural. That same house would see a decrease of approximately $35. And I know we talked about how they did the the valuations changed. I did look at mine again because mine still was going up even though it was going down, and mine's still going up, but my value increased by $85,000 on my personal house. So I'm probably still gonna see an increase, but it'll always obviously be less than what it would have been. But when I got that letter in the mail and saw it increased 80 grand, I knew my taxes were gonna go up because of that, but
I think you should sell it.
well, the problem is there's nothing to buy and the interest rates are
That's the other side of the
a little high. Yeah, I think I'll just stay.
Okay.
So unfortunately, not everybody's gonna see that. Just kind of depends on where their valuation went. This particular property that we're looking at, their value increased about $23,000, and they're still seeing a decrease in their taxes, county level, $35. So I think last week we kind of talked about where that magic number was. I'm guessing it's probably around the $40,000 to $50,000 increase range. If your value went up any more than 40 or 50, you're probably gonna see a small increase. On a 40-acre tract of land, increase of about $5. Last year,
5 cents per acre.
last year they had an increase of 40. I know there's another increase of 5 here, but you know, the value of that ag land went up significantly from last year. It was at 49,270 on a 40-acre tract of this parcel, and it went up to 64,870.
Jumped
So
$15,000.
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if you want to try to get that to be a decrease, we can maybe move some more numbers around, but that's what that ended up. And then the commercial I thought was good. You know, this year they changed the way that the valuation's done. So the first $150,000 of commercial gets to use the residential rate, and then the remainder is the 90-10 like it used to be. So on this particular parcel, we're looking at a assessed value of $1 million. So the taxable value would be $860,768. Their taxes are looked to decrease $254, which I think is good. Because last year they were 4,222, and they'll be 3,968. So I know we didn't get the rural to have a decrease, which it would have been nice to see that, but overall, the tax asking countywide would be less 13,836. On the other hand, 150, that would be an increase of our total task asking $134,057. So that's kind of those two things.
I like the 300, transferring 300, roll option, those guys.
The nice thing about that is you're giving everybody tax relief.
Yes.
The rural's already getting half of the tax money, around $700,000. That's offsetting their levy, plus they're actually getting some more. Because they pay on the general and the supplemental levy as well, but you're giving those urban people a tax break too, which I think is great. And it's what we did this year.
So, but why, whatever we do, if we did something with rural, then we're gonna be changing the other rates too. Aren't we?
The only bad thing is, and I think this whole House File 718 kind of messed things up when it is setting your levy based on your growth or whatever, because they lowered ours below the maximum that we can do, which we're able to make it work, which is great. But I think if we lower it anymore and next year they reduce it again, we could be in a pickle. So I would like to see the levies that they set for us that are lower than what we could be using to stay. And if you're gonna make any adjustments, it's gonna have to be on that supplemental levy.
Which is where we're at on both the rural and the urban right now. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because we can't go any lower than that.
I mean, you could, I guess you could look at the debt service levy, but that one I don't like to touch because we're already capturing, the TIF and everything. We're getting to utilize all the value. So,
That's only 65 cents a day.
yeah, it's not very much, but
So
it is what it is.
this packet that you gave me this morning, the new printed, is this with the 300,000?
Mhm.
Okay, so overall, your urban area levy would be 4.6094 and the rural will be 7.8642 max asking if we were to go ahead and prove what we have in front of us. I just want to reiterate one more time, we can approve this and set a public hearing, and it cannot exceed these, we can lower.
But by law, what we have to set is the hearing points that what on our general growth, our general fund.
They used to call it a max levy
Yeah.
hearing. Now they're calling it a proposed tax levy hearing.
That levy does not include debt service or something else. Right?
It includes everything except debt service.
Okay, everything. So that would be less than this. That's what.
Yeah, you remember back in
So
the day, we
that's-
didn't have
that's
to
the thing
use
is-
mental health as part of it, so
Mental health and debt service.
it's,
So this levy really paint the true picture.
it does not, so it's very important to make it clear to people that that's not what the actual levy is gonna be, but.
That's the point of it, yeah.
I was proposing next week to have that on the agenda to set the hearing for that. I have a timeline and that's a good date to do it.
Still April 1st deadline.
It's actually the 30th, but if we set it next week, we'll be in line to certified on the 22nd, which is ahead of schedule. Since that mailing's going out on the 20th, 25th, 20th. We don't want to, we can't have our hearing until after people have that to look at, so we can set it and then it's gonna be a couple weeks later that we'll actually have our hearing after people get their
So
notices. and have a chance.
this mailing is also, that's done at the same time.
The mailing, it has to be out, we're gonna mail it on the. Too many things in my head, let me look at my cheat sheet here. They can, they go out the 20th. No, well, not later than the 20th, but not before the 15th. So we have 5 days to get that done, which will be interesting.
Got software so we don't duplicate.
That's a good question.
Is it gonna be more than 14 grand each?
That's another thing I need to talk about. I don't really know, and I may sound ignorant, but I have never done this before. And I know we do tax statements, but this is different. Because tax statements, every parcel gets a bill. But we're trying to combine people that have own property in the same location. Safety tap, yeah, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. I know how I'm gonna be able to pull the file from the state. But I have not heard from Tyler how the heck I'm gonna import it into ours and get it sent off. And we get to do that here on the 15th, so. I hope they have something, so. Anyway, so those will go out on the 20th, and then we can't have our first hearing before the 25th. Cause you would, so I'm like, well, why don't we have our hearing like April 1st? That way, hopefully people have them, have had a chance to read it. We'll do it on April
This
Fool's.
is a joke, right?
Yeah. We'll do it on April Fool's Day. Speaking of postage, I got a email from the company that's doing our mailings. And they said, and I did not know this, because like I said, this is the first year we've ever had to do it. I have to prepay for postage. Which, okay, that's not a big deal, but it's $11,395. That's their estimate. But you have to do that before they mail them. So my question for you is, since our next bill day is not till really close to that, are you okay with me doing a manual check for that? I have authority to cut checks outside of a board meeting if it's like a credit card statement or payroll, obviously, but this is kind of different, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I would be doing this because I do have to prepay in order for them to do it.
What was the amount, 11,000?
$11,395. And I'll include that.
Estimate though, like. So that-
Yeah, it's an estimate.
Oh, well.
So,
We
14 grand, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna include that in next week's.
well, I'm gonna cut the check, but it will be on the list for next week for you to approve. But I have to get it mailed because it's going to Washington. And they need to have it before, I think they said before the 10th, and today's the 4th, so.
Can you just get a county credit card? Not prove that much.
Yeah, I mean, I cut checks here and there for different stuff, but
We do a
that's kind of,
resolution every year allowing you to do that.
you
Yeah.
do, but I
Yes.
still, if I'm spending $11,000, I want.
No, I appreciate
everybody to
bringing
know
it
that.
up, it's a.
It goes a little bit town's order, but not.
No, I kind of forgot what we were talking about dates, but I'm thinking like April Fool's Day would be a good day to do that person.
Does anybody have any more discussions, concerns?
I know I've broached, and I'm not sure how to say this without giving it all away, but there are some departments that maybe have some adjustments we may need to do lowering it. I think you're pretty much all aware of what I'm talking about, so obviously that doesn't affect the levy because if you lower it, and I don't think we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there are a couple more things that probably need to be looked at before we do the final. I think that's all I have.
To
You guys-
address your concern there, I think it's probably it'd be beneficial to the board and have that department and probably come in and have a discussion with us so we can have some clarity on where that's gonna go or what's the vision.
Yeah, because I did have another department head approach me and say, the board was very good this year about going and not giving any extra and making sure that the budgets were what you needed. And there really wasn't anybody asking for anything more this year for the most part. There's a couple of exceptions, but they didn't feel it was fair to not look at that when we know there's a change and, we've been going, knocking everybody's down to as low as we can get it. So, I mean, it's not just me that has that concern. It's been brought to me by other departments as well, so. But I agree, yeah.
Well, and my reply to that is, I respect everybody watching out for one another, but I definitely truly believe that, elected officials obviously really need to just focus on their own office.
I would agree with
Because
that.
it brings too much drama and toxicity in the house when we're trying to, like you coming and trying to be like, hey, Steph, you're trying to run a different. Well, then trying to run a secondary. I mean,
Well,
everybody's a professional in their own position and everybody, I don't know how to stress this enough. When we focus on positive impacts in our own departments, you're gonna see a different vibe in that courthouse. And we obviously want to serve the Carroll people the best.
Mhm.
So I think for the most part, the board of supervisors are typically pretty well aware of what things are going on and at least one of us is, and I think we do communicate well, but I agree with you, and I think that that probably needs to be brought forward to the board to discuss that budget. But if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, within that area of where one concern I know is there's only two things that can come out of that line item, so that money really can't be used unless it's amended for anything else, but
You're correct.
it can still be used. I might need some clarity there,
Okay.
but
Well, I believe there's two people in that line item. And the one would be leaving, so then it's only
one person.
one person, so.
Well, and we definitely.
Or do we just whoever had pre-budget? That was suggested at one time.
Let's see. No. Michael. That's you.
I think maybe we should draw it in double pop. I don't, well, I can tell you real quick, what it was. Yeah, it was Holtzman there.
I have no problem going in and having a conversation. If you would like me to. Okay. All right,
I mean, otherwise I cover it, if that's a problem, Brandon.
no problem. All right, so overall, do you guys want to go ahead and kind of move forward with moving 300,000 from,
I'm in favor of that.
I'm totally in favor of that.
I'm in favor.
Me too.
do we need a motion to move forward, or is that gonna be next week when you do your proposal?
I think next week when you set the hearing, you could state that we're gonna set the hearing on the proposed rate. You're gonna say what the hearing or what the rate is gonna supposedly be. And then you could say, you know, with the 300, with the $300,000 contribution.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is manure management annual updates. Got quite a few here. So we got Mike Weidel, section 13, Eden Township, no changes. Chris Venture Farm, section 12, Wheatland Township, change crop rotation or optimum yield to use manure analysis. We have Jasper Venture Farm, section 15, Glidden Township, change crop rotation or optimum yields and use manure analysis. 715 Woodford Creek Farm, section 12, Newton Township, change crop rotation or optimum yields, use manure analysis. Pine Ridge Fork, section 30, Roselle Township, no changes. NB Farm, section 20, Wheatland Township. Original plan, and then L Friedman Noble, section 29, Newton Township, original plan. Okay, reports.
You can go first. Wednesday, met at a Rolling Hills Mental Health, board meeting. Went through financials, everything's looking good there. On new business season center, request respite funding, for camp, autumn of 35,000. This is up at Sutherland. It's for kids that come from families that are divorced or abuse and drug abuse and different things. And that we've funded this in the past. School-based, then there was some school-based funding requests for DCAT coordinator. And there were some questions on that, and that was tabled to get more questions answered before we move forward. Next, Wesco out of Denison requested some training funding, and that was for suicide and de-escalation. We did approve that. It's like $30-some thousand. No, it was 15,000 something. So they're gonna have it, and they're gonna open it up to anybody else in the mental health region that wants to go to it, as long as we're thinking about even moving it up to Donnery Theater. And next, we did approve the Hudson audit engagement letter. Then we did approve the fiscal year 25 annual service and budget plan for $8,730,303. Then we had a long discussion in the governor's behavioral health alignment bill. We don't know how that's all gonna fall out, and they don't even have what their plans are yet for in June of next year. So then we had a discussion in regard to, as I think I told you before, that we had hired someone to take care of Carroll Sack and Calhoun County. Coordinator. Well, when this mental health thing came down, that's gonna be a short-lived job, so they go. We told her about it, and then she's turned down the application then. So we've taken added a stipend for 3 gals and one in the office is doing the paperwork to cover instead of hiring somebody for now. I did vote against it because they voted to give them stipend, to give them all. I said no, and but they went through that way. Away went.
Can't win them all, can you?
No,
Dean?
big battles, right?
That's
That's
Third-
good.
Thursday, had a new opportunity board meeting. Basically went through everything. I think I reported last week on policy council. We went through all that. We did do a FADS budget amendment that was extended to September 24. We did also. We were open bids on for construction of a new garage out there. We got so many vehicles there. They've got like. Some have medical equipment and, with their, children and families thing. And different stuff, and we want to get them in heated, some sort of heated, so they're not out in the weather. And, so the bid came in $595,500. It's like a 20 stall deal, because they got that many bids. Yeah, well, he did have to park up there. But, so we, table that, did not act on it. They're gonna go back to. With the contract, we only had one bid, that's the problem. Again, this is a federal project. So,
the on-site out there.
yeah, Bacon Act came in and that kicked out a lot of contractors. So they're going back to design with the contractor to try to get that down. Hopefully $100,000. We did approve the risk assessment for the Head Start, and we also approved legislation assistance programs, 2 different ones. And that was basically about that. Well, then also before that meeting, I had to get ID me for federal projects. What a joke.
I hear you.
And I've had several phone calls with the assessor, and also we've had union negotiations set up for next Friday before the conference board meeting. And so as I told the session before, I do have one for examining board and one for the board of review. But I got a call back that one on board review. This week I have CCGP meeting. Thursday is meet with Farm Bureau, Thursday evening. Friday is the union negotiations, and then also the conference board. That's my week. I'm sticking to it.
Can you repeat what you said about the DCAT coordinator? So I can follow.
That's it. There are different schools that are trying in these DCAT coordinators.
Right.
And there's a question if there's a double funding there, so that's why we tabled it.
So Region 12.
Well, actually, HHS came to us with a request for funding. We just didn't add in on that, so we tabled it until we get more direction.
I'll go next. Here's my next up. Last week had many discussions with multiple people from the public about the CCGP discussions. I meet with the city, Laura, to discuss some other budget items that they're going through. And then I did do a courthouse walkthrough. And fielded a lot of emails and reference. There's some opinions or suggestions to happen over in Halbert for Park Trail. Didn't think that's why I'll be meeting with Jason after this. This week, this morning I had a Republican meeting, and then I have the Region 12 Executive Board meeting and an RDC meeting. I have Party Bureau as well with Jeannie. Then on Friday, the assessors meeting. And I also have newspaper radio this week. And I will be speaking to an elected official within the department about a budget.
What did you say after Region 12 Executive Board?
Oh, the RDC.
RDC?
RDC, it's a loan group, it's a branch off the executive board to
Okay.
discuss loans that they I think that's it.
Last week, comprehensive plan for planning and zoning Wednesday night. I did spend some time with Courtney and at the courthouse on the budget, and first order is looking good. This week, Tuesday, CCVP at noon tomorrow with Gene. Wednesday, you guys are all invited if you want the punch list for the first floor with SEH and baiting at 9 o'clock. Thursday evening, Farm Bureau meeting at 6:30. Friday at 10 o'clock, union negotiations. Friday at noon, conference board, and I did reach out to a former treasurer to be on, I won't say the word, she declined, but it sounds like you got it covered. School.
Okay. So I just briefly, I had a hazmat meeting over in Region 5 hazmat meeting over in Fort Dodge last Wednesday, but prior to that, I did receive an email about, someone was concerned if we were going to those meetings, and I just want to assure everyone that, yes, I've gone to every meeting, and, Jeff Cullen was also on this time via Zoom, so we were both there, but, this individual also raised, the fact that we're paying $2 per capita for hazmat services, and that's not accurate, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. We pay $1.50, not $2. And this person was also concerned that Carroll County is paying more than their fair share because we don't have that many, facilities with hazardous materials. So I just briefly wanted to read this. I just briefly wanted to share this with you because it's not the first time that I've heard it. So, and there's 9 counties in that region. Okay, and so I'm just gonna, every facility that has, a hazmat, hazardous material danger, they're required to file a tier 2 notification with the Region 5. So I just real quick, so tier 2 report based off the quantity of hazardous chemicals at the facility. Each chemical has a different reporting threshold. So some chemicals might have to report if they have 500 pounds at the facility, and other chemicals don't have to report unless they have 10,000 pounds of the chemical at the facility. So, just for your knowledge, Webster County has 77 facilities. Hamilton County has 56. Wright County has 50. Carroll County has 48 facilities that file tier 2 reports. Calhoun County 35, Humboldt 34, Sac 33, Greene 32, Pocahontas 28. So there are several other counties that have less than us. So we are not paying more than our fair share, my opinion. And then you also have to think about what's going on with rail, an instance that we can't really control that could happen there. And I have some of those statistics, but they're confidential. And another thing to think about is they're also training the folks that are at the working through the hazmat team. They're training them in the CO2 plume, if that's to go through. And if you don't know, that was dropped by Navigator, picked up by Carbon Solutions again. So Poet in Coon Rapids is on that map. So yes, you were right, Zach. They are technically in Guthrie County, but they're right on the line. And if something were to happen, it would affect Carroll County residents. So, it's just important to realize that when we talk about possibly not using them, because I think they do a very good job, and I would not want to be without them if any of these, it only takes one catastrophe. So, I just wanted to share that. And then, I went to the Crawford County environmental meeting, like we discussed at length earlier. And then, this week, I don't have a lot, Friday, the assessor meeting. That's all I have for right now, so. Thank you.
Last week I fielded multiple calls about the CCGP situation. Did a walkthrough at the courthouse on Thursday. Friday we did a phone deal with environmental services and Denison. And this week I am gone on vacation. Thank you.
So I have to set the proposed levy hearing next week. Bill day. And at 9:30, the second. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Second District Community-Based Corrections. Which I think is something with the Second Judicial District. Her name is Jennifer Reynoldson. She's gonna meet with the board. I think there's been some changes in the way they do things. Filing period is open for county offices, open today. Deadline is the 20.
Second, moving day.
Moving day.
Oh, yeah, that's convenient.
Scott,
Yeah,
Scott didn't say you have something in place, so like, we're gonna probably be closed that day.
that's fine, because the courts will be open, so
Okay.
our doors will be open, and we don't need any access to computers or.
You just have to accept.
I need a
Okay.
copier, basically,
Okay.
so, yeah, we can certainly accept them even if we're not up and running. That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
There's a motion in a second, and another second, any more comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Courtney.
Yeah.
I can let you go. Let's, you get my gift off.